Giant course.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
About to head off to Japan. Let's go there. It's been over 6 years since my last trip to Japan, and I gotta be honest, I was a bit nervous. Not because I haven't been there before. On the contrary, it's the place I've been to the most. I've traveled there like about 12, at least 12 times, a dozen times in like the last 20 years. But this was the longest time that I'd spent away from the country since 2004. So since my first visit there. Add to that, I'm gonna go to my favorite place, which is Tokyo. The place that is the perfect representation of the juxtaposed nature of the world. It's as ugly as it is beautiful, as old as it is new, as static as it is dynamic. And I know that I'm really not going to have a hard time being there because I'm so familiar with it. But I also know there's going to be so much new stuff to do, to see, and to eat. I know Tokyo didn't wait for me to catch up. It usually never does. It's kind of like it's the place that kind of like goes, if it was a person, it would be the kind of person that would come up and say hi and then just continue walking past you whilst you sort of awkwardly try to make conversation with it. That's the kind of place that it is. But enough of that. I'm still in Melbourne and I'm still not there yet. So I'm on my way to catch my flight, which is operated by Australia's very own Qantas. And going by the current feedback that's out there about the old flying kangaroo, I didn't have high hopes of getting to my destination as per schedule. Qantas has been having a really tough time with flight times and cancellations and not refunding money that was taken. People are not happy with them. I'm flying out of Melbourne Airport, which is best described as nothing special. I mean, it's functional, yes, but that's about it. Now, I'm not going to trash it, but I will trash Qantas. Look, I'm a reasonable guy, and my sort of definition of a successful flight is if the plane takes off and lands and I'm still alive, that's pretty good. But Lord Almighty, it has gone so downhill for these guys. You don't have to take my word for it. The CEO actually published a really cringy public announcement saying that basically they know they're shite and they need to do better. To that CEO, no one's buying it. Words are free and cost you nothing. Also, we all know that during the last 15 years that you were the one that was cutting all the costs and turning the reputation of this once respected airline into straight ass. However, the flight staff were actually quite good. Not great, just good. I can't blame them though. They were just trying to work as best as they could with what they had. The plane, however, was shite. I was convinced that it was the same plane that I'd taken 20 years ago on my first trip to Japan. The food was inedible. By the way, I flew economy, and it's probably something I'll never do again with Qantas. Not because I'm a baller, it's just that I don't want my trip to be starting and then ending with a really shite experience. Let me ask you a rhetorical question. Do you know what it feels like to have a threesome with sumo wrestlers in the back of a vintage Volkswagen Beetle? Of course you do. But to the few of you who don't, it's extremely uncomfortable. Such is the economy seat on this plane, of which there were many, and all of them were full. The plane was absolutely jam-packed. It's not surprising given every conversation that I've been hearing over the past year since the borders had reopened it went something like this.
I'm going on holiday soon.
Oh yeah? Where?
To Japan.
No way. I just got back from there.
Oh, nice. How was it?
Great. I'm going back in a few months.
Amazing. My friends are there now, actually.
Oh, hey. I just noticed you two talking about Japan. I'm going there too. My friends just got back from there and said it was amazing.
Like literally everyone in Australia seemed to be going to Japan. No one mentioned any other country. What, I guess we're too good for Bali now, are we? Think of how your absence is hurting the Balinese economy. Think of all the board shorts and thongs that's going to go unworn. Think of all the buckets of alcohol that you're going to be drinking out of and puking in. Think of all the shitty tattoos you won't be getting. Won't someone please think of the children? No, except you. I did mention in my other video about the Japanese toilets about how the number of tourists to Japan had increased dramatically, and in 2024 it's expected that there's going to be 33 million tourists to visit Japan. Most of these people are going to land in Tokyo, which in and of itself is already a very crowded place. So if you don't like busy places, don't go there.
Oh my God! Wow!
Okay, here is now where I do some due diligence and give you some actual useful practical tips and advice on what to do before you actually go to Japan for your holiday or your trip there. Given that everybody seems to be going there, I thought I'd do this to help you guys out with some of my experience. So here are 10 top Tokyo travel tips. Sorry, that was for the algorithm. Sorry. Okay, so since this is day one, let's go over some things you're most likely going to want to have prior to your trip. Yeah? Number one. Ichi. Okay, no. Should I say that in Japanese? Ichi. No, I'll just do number one. Number one, the JR train pass. Yes, I'm not going to go into too much detail about the JR train pass because this is really well known and sort of it's been covered extensively by people who know how to cover these things way better than I do anyway. But if you're planning on going from one city to another, then it's a definite must. Hell, I mean, even if you're going from like Tokyo to Osaka and back, just that trip alone will pretty much cover the cost of your JR pass. So it's well worth it. However, there is one thing that a lot of tourists don't know, is that you need to book your seats. That's right. There are booked sections and non-booked sections, so reserved and non-reserved. So you need to reserve your seats on the Shinkansen. I recommend you reserve your seats on the Shinkansen because it can get very, very crowded. You do not want to be without the comfort of getting a seat. So I recommend that you reserve your seat, especially on the busy routes, like especially the Tokyo to Osaka route. That's a very popular route, especially if you're going in the busy departure times as well. Definitely recommend it. I mean, I guess it's okay if you're traveling solo and you don't mind taking your chances and sitting anywhere or next to anybody. But if you're traveling with other people who you actually want to sit next to, then definitely recommend that you reserve your seats in advance. Part two of this is that if you are booking your seats in advance and you actually have large luggage and you want to put them behind you, you need to book the last seats in the Shinkansen carriage. So the last seats in the carriage have a space behind them that is large enough to put large pieces of luggage in, and they are solely exclusively for the people that have booked the seats, those last seats in the carriage. So yeah, definitely recommend you do that if you have large pieces of luggage that you don't want to store above your head, just in case they fall off. Now, the other thing that a lot of people don't do with their JR pass is that they don't use them on short trips. You know, you use them when you're going from city to city. I understand that. But for example, if you want to go from like Tokyo to Yokohama, on the local trains, it might actually take you about an hour to get there. But if you use your JR pass, you can actually jump on the Shinkansen and you'll be there in around 10 minutes. So think about it that way as well. One last thing is the Shinkansen has Wi-Fi, but it's hot garbage, as a matter of fact. It reminded me of trying to download a 4 megabyte MP3 back in the 1990s. That's how bad it was. Anyone younger than 30 would not know this pain. We went through this, so you don't have to. All I'm saying is don't use it. Don't use the Shinkansen Wi-Fi. Don't rely on it anyway. Now, this is a nice segue to the next thing, which is internet. So you need internet when you're there. So either get yourself an eSIM before you get there, or one of those pocket Wi-Fi devices, you are going to need internet when you're there. It's really easy to organize. The eSIMs are all done electronically, especially if your phone can handle it. Some phones don't do eSIMs, so you need the pocket Wi-Fi. Very convenient. You can pick them up at the airport when you get to Tokyo or any other major city, and you can also drop them off there when you're leaving. Oh, and that was number two. Now it's a number three. No, I shouldn't say that. Number three is, yes, you will need internet, mainly for Google Translate. That's what I found. And also getting the train schedules and things like that. But Google Translate, that has come so far in such a short period of time. It's actually quite good. I used it a lot and it translated a whole bunch of stuff for me, especially in places where there were no English translations, especially if you're going to like smaller towns and smaller cities and things like that. It's very handy to have. And I, for one, am very thankful for that because I had to do some absolute dumb shittery 20 years ago when I first arrived and went through some very awkward learning experiences, which I'll probably leave for no videos ever in the future. Number four is stop taking cash out in your own country. Why are you doing this anyway? You're going to get screwed on the rates. You're going to get a raw deal. Tokyo Airport, as with most major international airports, has ATMs. You can take your cash out there. And when you take your cash out, don't take so much of it. Most places use credit card, and many places, especially in the bigger cities and the biggest stores, have tap to pay as well. So the mobile payment where you tap and pay. But over there, it's called touchy. They call it touchy, which is really weird because you kind of have to ask touchy wa daijoubu, which kind of means, can I touch? I guess it's kind of the same thing here, but we call it tap to pay. But in reality, we all know you got to pay to tap. Paying digitally is always going to give you a better deal on currency conversion rates and less fees. I know this from experience. So yeah, if you can, just pay by card or pay by tap. Don't take cash out and rely on it solely. A lot of places take electronic payment. Unless you don't want things like hentai magazines are us or Japanese used underpants of schoolgirls showing up as transaction items on your credit card statement, then you can pay by cash. You should carry some more cash if you're that kind of person. You sick bastard. Number 5. Okay, so this next one is for my people. And my people are basically anyone who, if they sleep incorrectly, will be disabled for like a week. So basically anyone over 40. That's my people. Now, I've got 3 words that are going to save your life. Comfort over fashion. I can't state that enough. You're probably going to do a lot more walking and standing around than you usually do in your Western sloth life. So get some proper walking shoes. A good idea would actually be to condition yourself prior to your trip, like start going on long walks or something like a few months before your trip. That would actually get you conditioned enough to be able to make the treks when you're overseas and not get so sore that you will miss out on doing the things that you wanted to do. Hey, did I just give some useful practical advice here? I must be losing my touch. On the topic of fashion... That's right, Erica. Pack light. Japan, especially Tokyo, is a fashion lover's mecca, except it's better than Mecca because it caters to everybody instead of a specific group of people. And I know I can buy stuff online using the World Wide Webternet these days, but I also know that what you find in Japan whilst walking around, you will never actually find or know enough to search for on the internet. And whilst we're on fashion, we have to talk about the seasons here, because one of the things that Japanese people always said to me when I was there is that we have 4 seasons in Japan. I didn't understand that, but now I kind of do, because the seasons are very distinct and they don't like to mess about with each other. So when it's summer, it's summer. When it's winter, it's winter. Yeah, I don't know. I still don't know what that means. But anyway, I'll do a more in-depth video about the best of each season, but that'll come later in the series. So please subscribe. Okay? Subscribe. Please subscribe. Number 7. So if you're going in the colder months, beware that whilst it's cold outside, your walking is going to actually heat up your body. And as soon as you go inside somewhere, like in a shop or in a train, it's going to be sweat city. And B, if you're going in the summer months or the warmer months, try not to go in the peak of summer. It's humid as hell and it rains a lot. You will not only be wet from your own sweat, but from the rain too. And nobody wants to be on the peak hour train pressed against your sweaty foreign ass, no matter how much perfume you wear. Number 8. And here's the thing. Perfume. Since people are in such close proximity over there, wearing very loud and obnoxious perfumes is just not the done thing. You need to respect other people's right to breathe. So put away that bucket of concentrated oud oil you are planning on dunking yourself in and just consider bathing a bit more regularly instead. I swear this happened so many times on that trip that I was on. Every time we were in like a crowded sort of place, even in an open area, I'd smell perfume and then I'd look up and I could see like foreigners or something like that. They're like 20 meters away from me and I could still smell them.
Number 9.
Put your phone on silent mode and do not ever take it off. First of all, no one wants to hear your shitty ringtone.
Ding 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 ding.
And second of all, don't take voice calls on the train. Maybe it's okay where you come from, but it's just not a commonly done thing in Japan. So unless you're on the board for the UN Security Council and you really need to take an emergency phone call because Putin ran out of bears to wrestle and so he's bored and wants to start shit, then shh. Number 10. Okay, and this is the last one. And I've been guilty of this as well. Hell, I've been guilty of most of these actually. But this last one I think is really important. Unless you're a pro photographer or a videographer building their portfolio, don't take any special camera equipment. Your gimbals, your DSLRs, your drones, your microphones, your filters, your lights, your rig, your dolly, just leave that shit at home. Truth is, if you have a mobile phone that came out anytime in the last 5 years, you're good. Studies have shown that taking pictures and videos of events instead of fully concentrating on what's in front of us prevents memories from taking hold. Research has suggested that the sheer volume and lack of organization of digital photos for personal memories discourages many people from accessing and reminiscing about them. In order to remember, we have to access and interact with the photos rather than just amass them. When you outsource the capturing of a moment to your camera, you will not be in that moment fully. You'll be there by proxy. And if that's what you want, then save your money, stay at home, and just watch YouTube. There's plenty of people who have documented Japan with way better camera ability than you. So mindlessly documenting every little thing is not only bad for your memory, it's the opposite of why you went there in the first place. To make memories, to have memorable moments, to feel. Let me tell you a story. Like in 2013, I bought a DSLR and I bought some really quality lenses to go along with it as well. And so in 2014, we took a 2-week trip to Japan, to Tokyo. And I took over 8,000 photos on my DSLR, and I would have probably taken another 2,000 photos on my mobile as well. And what did I do with them? Nothing. They're on a hard disk somewhere, but I can barely remember that trip without referring to the photos. However, I can tell you in great detail the events of my first trip there in 2004 and my second trip there in 2005 and the subsequent 2 years that I spent living there as well. And yes, whilst I did have a camera the whole time, it only came out occasionally to cap off significant moments, whether it was to get a photo in front of Hot Men's Box or film the countdown to the most insane New Year's party I've ever been to. It was a tool to accentuate the moment I was already fully in. And whilst lenses these days are better than our own eyes and unlimited cloud storage is more than our brains can handle, but as high as resolution and expansive as storage get, there's just something about a lived experience that a camera just can't capture. And the more you experience that, the more you will be living in the moment, instead of having it lived for you by proxy.